Welcome to episode 1 of Move in Ritual. I am Mel, I'm your host and your guide. So, this podcast is an extension to my YouTube channel where I share seasonal yoga videos for women that deal with stress, burnout, anxiety, and just need some relief or connection back to their body. The podcast, being an extension, is my way of sharing my intention behind the practices and hopefully giving you some more wisdom to take off the mat. Because nervous system regulation is a key foundation of my classes and my teachings and basically my whole journey, I think it's important to give you more tips and insight off of the mat so that you can take it into your everyday life and find ways just to regulate and feel empowered knowing that you have everything within you. And it does not need to be a massive structured routine. And in fact, it's the opposite of that, and that's what I teach. So the name itself, Move in Ritual, I believe that when we come to movement on the mat, or anything we do throughout the day, it can be more of a ritual, a practice of compassion versus a structured push for over-functioning or over-performing. That doesn't mean that we can't have structure in our life, but ritual is that softness that we give ourselves, and it feels different. It's a different energy. And I'm going to give you an example before we get into the episode and what everything is about. Today's is jam-packed. It'll probably be 2 to 3 parts, but for me, drinking coffee can be a part of your routine. You get up, you make your coffee, or you run to the coffee shop, maybe you go to a local Starbucks on your way to work. That can also be your your ritual, but the difference is this. Routine becomes habitual, right? We might not even think about it, but we might rely on some of these things, especially caffeine like me, and we might have a strong attachment to parts of our routine, because habits and other things are underlying principles of why we're doing things. When we go to our coffee in more of a ritual, it becomes more of a compassionate practice. So for me, I'll use that example as someone who's addicted to caffeine, especially most of my life, like I relied on it to get through the day. The energy was, I need to get a coffee in before I can do anything. And my energy, if you see my shoulders, my body would tense up. I was so attached to it and relying on it, and it was frustrating if I didn't get it. Now I get my coffee in the morning, I walk to the coffee shop, and it is time for me where I tune into my energy, I tune into my thoughts, I set intentions. I set an intention when I sip my coffee. It's a way to regulate myself, but also enjoy, because I love the taste of my coffee, and honor it as a gift to myself. So it's a compassionate energy. That's the intention of Move in Ritual, instead of offering you a bunch of routines. So long-winded, let's get into today's episode. What can you expect? I'm going to share a little bit about my story and burnout particularly, and why nervous system regulation is the key foundation to everything in our modern world. It is non-negotiable in my opinion. And I also want to clarify that nervous system regulation is everyone's responsibility, meaning even if you don't deal with surface level anxiety or stress, we are overstimulated. We are in a world that has never existed before. Our ancestors did not deal with having apps and this and having the senses overwork themselves, right? We are bombarded through the lens of our eyes, sound, textures. There's just so much offerings, which there's a lot of positive to what we have in the world, but we need to ground and balance ourselves through that, because we are not machines ourselves. We're also in a day and age where mental well-being has taken a huge decline. We see more people on medication than ever before. So these are things that we want to really take a look at as a whole, and I always, going through the lens of Ayurveda and yoga, we look at the nervous system as a part of that. Okay, we're going to talk about what Ayurveda is, because it's a word that you may not be familiar with, but I want to just brief you on it. We're going to talk also about a little bit about what intentionally is to come with this podcast and moving forward. And really, the bottom line is, how can I help you? So this will be a conversation through my voice to you. You can always share what resonates, what doesn't, and hopefully we can give you things that feel aligned and that help you. All right, so I have notes because I'm going to forget, and I also am a huge yapper when it comes to these things. So let's talk a little bit about my story. I'm going to keep this brief because there's so many intricacies of it, but I think it's important for you to understand why I do the work I do, and also for you to trust that I've lived through severe burnout, anxiety, stress, and in survival for probably 5+ years, okay? So when I'm sharing this information, yes, I'm qualified to talk about it. I am a registered yoga teacher. I took a specialty in Ayurveda. I'm certified to educate other teachers now, and certified teachers in the realm of Ayurvedic yoga. That's not, my credentials are not what I want to talk about, but more of my experience. So I was in the beauty world for over 18 years. My whole entire adult life was makeup and beauty. I got into the industry when I was 16, which was a dream job, okay? My first real job was in the cosmetic industry. So immediately I knew I wanted to be a part of that world. I was very fortunate in the times I started. I had a lot of mentors, a lot of training. I got to do really cool things, work with different brands. My dream job was to become a trainer. I've always had the gift of yap. So I love training, I love educating, I love sharing experiences and connecting with people. And when I started to learn different products and textures and techniques, I just felt really connected with people when I was able to share that and get people excited about product, other makeup artists, and then they could, share their insight. And we're always in a trainer position, you're always learning from others. It's not even about you teaching nonstop. There's always an interaction where, gosh, they tried the product and showed you a new way to use it. So I got that in my early 20s and I loved it. I was doing at the time everything right in terms of wellness. I worked out. I didn't meditate quite in that role, but later on I started learning meditation. I started yoga. I thought I was doing everything right. In the industry I was in, it was very fast paced. So when you're in the beauty industry, you're hands-on, you're servicing people, you're attending a lot of events. It's extremely social. And funny enough, everyone sees me as an extrovert social, and I actually think I'm the opposite. But there's something about when you are aligned in your purpose or you feel really connected, it's a creative world, it just lights you up, it brings you online. So was doing that, loved it, but at that point I needed to grow from that company and went on to different things and wore different hats. I dabbed into sort of business development and marketing, and still in trainer world, but different avenues, different brands, which I think was phenomenal because I got to learn different philosophies and techniques. So let's just fast forward. I'm moving through the beauty industry, awesome dream role, dream job, and it's very fast paced, okay? I came from a background, I wasn't athletic, but I was always in sports like gymnastics, cheerleading, swimming, these solo type of sports, which really connect you to your body. I didn't get that when I started into the beauty world. I think my only movement that became dominant was routine of a gym. Again, amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the terms of yoga, Ayurveda, this is a lot of output and not a lot of grounding, a lot of rejuvenation, let's call it. I was young, so I had the energy too. But in 2020, when the world started to shift, the beauty industry shifted. And it was devastating, first off. Overnight, pretty much everyone who had this desire in the beauty world, we were like, who are we now? It took your identity and threw it upside down. I always identified myself, and of course, yoga teaches us this about the ego, that I was mellow makeup. I was like, that's all I knew. So during the the 2020 COVID, it was confusing. And in that time, my body started to do weird things. I started to lose hair. I had rashes all over my body. I started to get numb head to toe, which felt like blood sugar things, vertigo, just different things that my doctor was kind of, it could be this, it could be that, but nothing really. We just started treating the symptoms. In the time of this, I started to practice yoga. Well, I had already been practicing yoga pretty strictly, like daily, but I started to get more into Ayurveda, and then I was becoming certified to be a Ayurvedic yoga teacher, just my 200. for my own deepening of my practice. So I started introducing Ayurveda and yoga as more of a therapy, as a medicine, while working with my doctor for specific treatments. We treated the rash, with one thing. Then we treated my hair loss with another. Then we treated, the dizziness with, I don't know, I think it was diet at the time. Nothing was really working. And in fact, it kind of was getting worse despite me meditating, journaling, and, trying Ayurveda stuff. And maybe again, if you're not hearing, the theme is lots of output, lots of trying. Even in the healing world, we can overextend ourselves. So I was getting imbalances, my hormones were a mess, and then just emotional crashes. But I wanted to say something really clear here. I didn't feel anxious, okay? So mentally, I was working on that conscious state, but subconsciously in my body, physically, had another dimension it was in. So one incident led me to pause work. I had to leave my last beauty role and take some time apart. So in that, I was working with my Ayurvedic naturopath, who was one of my teachers in my yoga teacher training. And we really fine-tuned and took everything off the plate, and we personalized my practice. So instead of doing yoga, instead of doing this and that, and we dropped everything. And the first thing was just, let's do Abhyanga, which is a self daily massage. Okay. Let's maybe go for a walk in nature, and simplifying it, because obviously what I was having was a lot of nervous system dysregulation. And immediately this, which I'm going to talk about, is a Vata imbalance. So Vata, we'll talk about what that means according to Ayurveda. So we had to build slowly. And what's interesting is, of course, my hair started to grow back almost instantly. I think 2 weeks. I could look at the picture of timestamps. I think it was 2 weeks after about 6 months of working with my doctor. So rituals had become my healing. And the self-massage, daily massage, I had the opportunity to do it daily. I know everyone may not have that time, but I was off work. So I did do that because it felt extremely regulating. And of course it does. So it's a daily massage with warm oil. You start your day with it. It's regulating because it's releasing oxytocin. It's creating body safety. Your nervous system takes a load off because it's like comforting your own self. It's like someone giving you the best hug ever, but you're doing it for yourself. So naturally your hormones start telling your body starts telling itself, we're safe. So you feel better. And that's why things start moving again, like hair growth. Okay. So that's my story. Let's take a pause now. I've given you a lot of words of Ayurveda and different terms. Let's talk about what Ayurveda is. Ayurveda is the sister of yoga. Yoga is the path of healing, the path of union, self-realization. So yoga is not just your yoga mat and getting on and moving. It's actually a philosophy that involves a path. Like there's avenues you take to self-realization, and movement is part of it. You use the body as a vehicle to move through samskaras and things, which means basically your triggers and limiting beliefs and karmic buildup, things you've learned that don't service you in this lifetime. So yoga connects you to sort of your higher self, your spiritual self, and embodies it. Whereas Ayurveda teaches us that you are more than that, but it helps you live in the real world, the physical world. So it uses Ayurveda as a tool, yoga as a tool, meditation, all these things. But Ayurveda will give you a little bit more simplicity into everyday life, talking about, nutrition, sleep, your daily routine, and even when you would be most optimal of output. Okay, so I told you I was outputting way more than I was inputting, but each person has a level that will be different. And that's the next point of Ayurveda. It is it's not a one size fits all. It is a personalized healing system. It's over 5,000 years old, and today it's still really relevant. And a lot of what you see in holistic healing stems from Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, which the two themselves have a lot of intricacies and they align with a lot of things. So Ayurveda teaches us that healing isn't one size fits all. It's actually seasonal. So according to truly the climate you're in, cycles that you are in your life, because especially women, we go through a cycle every month. If you're past that stage of life where you're not going through that, you still have a cycle within you that's a little unique compared to men, okay? It works through the elements of nature. So Ayurveda looks at 5 main elements in nature. We see fire, we see earth, water, and we see space. I get those all? And those 5 elements, and Chinese medicine has similar. They call things differently, but there's energetics to all those, right? Fire transforms, water cleanses and it's heavy, earth is, dense and it's grounding and it creates structure. So all of those have an energy, and together, if you make them in pairs, there's 3 pairs that Ayurveda focuses on. We call these the doshas. And from those bioenergies, like fire and water, creates pitta, space and air creates vata, and water and earth create kapha. Okay? I know these are a lot of words, but don't worry. This podcast we're going to go deeper. And if you have questions, drop them below. All I want you to remember right now during this conversation is that Ayurveda tells us that we are not separate from nature. So those energies live within our body and they live within our systems, right? Our body operates as one, but we've got intricate systems. We've got, our nervous system, which is the big one because that is a vata dosha system, regulated system. Nervous system stems everything because it creates movement. So if our nervous system is dysregulated, that means the movement in our body is dysregulated. And that means every system, while still operating as functionally as it can, will be dysregulated at some point, especially if this is long term. And we know this. We know disease comes from, dis-ease in the mind. We know a lot of stress can cause a lot of diseases we see today. Okay, so we've talked about my story. We talked briefly about Ayurveda, and just if I haven't lost you yet, how yoga and Ayurveda differ. I think I've already said it, but yoga is the path of union. So it's movement, breath, meditation, and a return to soul. There's a journey in yoga, which I'll do a full episode on that specifically. But if you're curious of it, it's not just on the map. Ayurveda is the path of balance. So food, nutrition, lifestyle, to just live in harmony, to be your best self, to have optimized energy, and to prevent disease or heal from dysregulations within you. So it gives you a lot of, it empowers you, right? Because you feel hopeless and you're like, okay, I'll just take something to mask my symptoms, which I'm not discrediting medication. I think we live in a time which both can coexist. I think that we give our power up a lot to healing. And I think this is where Ayurveda has taught me, and also personalized. I have not been on Instagram now for months, and it's been the best thing for my nervous system because I was constantly, as a business owner, I was focusing way too much on what other yoga teachers were doing, how to market myself, how to get it right. And I had put so much pressure on myself. I said, never mind. I'm pausing. I'm going to go back to the roots of Ayurveda and yoga in my own life, and I'm going to teach from that. And that's where you're at. I was teaching things like Pilates, and I asked myself, I love Pilates. When I was a gymnast and a coach in training, they call it CIT for a previous gymnast. When you're conditioning other gymnasts, we use the foundations of Pilates, right? You need the core and alignment and all that. And I love it so much as my own practice. But I think I went there because of the niche and trend of it. And I'm being honest about that. For those of you who've taken my Pilates class, I know it's a great class. I love teaching it. But I think my whole thing is right now, I really want to teach from what's important to me. And so that's where we're at. Okay. So together, yoga and Ayurveda, this is what I teach in my classes, my movement sequences. So if you take a yoga class of mine, especially in person, I'll give you some yoga Ayurveda wisdom. But if you're taking it on YouTube, I really want you to get into your body quickly. Just know, and I'll talk about it more in this podcast sort of workshop style, that there is such a strong intention on how I bring those classes together. Each pose is according to the doshas, the season, and the function of that class. Okay. let's get into the nitty-gritty now of the nervous system. So, you can't think your way out of burnout. You can't journal your way out of burnout. You can't even meditate. That might seem strong, but you can't meditate or you can't output to get out of burnout. I'm the living proof of that. Okay. So today's day and age puts us all in burnout. Men, women, doesn't matter your background. At some point, you're going to burn out because the pace of reality has sped up, and it's a little scary because they always say time doesn't exist, and I'm like, I don't like, you see it now. You ever go through the last few months, and you're like, wow, like how did we get 3 months past? Like, we're already in a new season, and you didn't even feel the season that you were in. As humans, we have the senses to experience reality. And so if we're overstimulating them and we're not being able, you ever just taste a good meal and enjoy it? It's rare now. We rush through so much. So most of us are living in fight, flight, and freeze, right? This is especially common during Vata cycles of the seasons. So fall season, which we're going into where I am at, it could be a cycle in your life where things are changing, or you could have a Vata dominancy. You're a Vata dosha person. So you might have tendencies to lean into imbalance in the nervous system. So anxiety, if you're not someone that deals with anxiety, you might experience overwhelm a little bit more. Even perfectionism, overgiving, these kinds of things are all signs of nervous system deregulation, insomnia, gut issues are obviously part of that. And it's amazing to me that this is all catching up. Science is just figuring out that our second brain lives in the gut, but Ayurveda has always said that if you are dealing with issues in your life, you need to start with the gut and, of course, the nervous system. And call it our Agni. Again, another episode, but we'll talk about that. So regulation is simply safety. It's safety in your body. Your body needs to feel safe in whatever life is throwing at you. If it does not, you can try really hard to think out of it, and you might get a little bit of movement. You might be able to ground yourself, but for the most part, you're going to need a body practice to get there. So when we're feeling all these things, anxious, overwhelm, perfectionism, overgiving, insomnia, anything I've just mentioned, this is a Vata imbalance. So this means your air and space element is scattered, depleted. It's not regulated. And again, that goes through everything else in the system. So when we speak about, or when I speak to people about, I'm anxious, burnt out, or maybe I have gut issues, or maybe I'd like to talk about insomnia. Maybe I do yoga just for insomnia, or maybe the yoga practice asana helps me feel looser in my body. I don't feel as tense. We need to think of it from the Ayurveda perspective of movement. So movement can help serve you, but if movement is too scattered, then we need to find a way to balance it. So 2 rules Ayurveda has to heal yourself is, number 1, like attracts like. So if you need more of an element, you need more warmth, you need more energy, you're going to add practices that are energizing. Opposites balance. So if you are someone that's anxious, and let's think of the quality of anxiety, it's scatter, it's uncontrollable. And if you think of wind, right, this is Vata imbalance. It has a mind of its own. It's moving on its own. We need to ground. We need to find an opposite to bring it down. Okay. So let's just recap here before I go a little deeper. I don't want to make this was a top level intro to everything, and I hope I haven't lost you, but I hope it's insightful. 1, I've been here. I am here. If you are dealing with burnout, anxiety, stress, I am someone who's dealt with it for many years without tending to it, despite me thinking I knew what I knew. Number 2, personalized approach to regulating your nervous system is going to be far more productive, helpful, balancing than trying to do a routine you saw on Instagram or even something you've seen in me posting. A ritual is a devotional practice that feels more compassion to yourself than structure or overperforming. Okay? What else? We talked about that. And then Ayurveda is the science of yoga that helps you feel empowered. It personalizes your practice and it works with you on everyday life, everything from digestion, sleep, energy, and in seasons. Whereas yoga is the path to enlightenment or union with self, meaning we sort of work through things that we can be conscious of that are underneath the surface. Both bring us there, both give us, because we all know we're operating from a very small part of our state is conscious, but there's about 90-95% of our subconscious that houses everything from memories, bad experiences, good experiences. We are programmed like a computer. Data is stored. It pulls data when something's familiar. Your body and your mind are going to pull data, bring it up to experience your experience in the best or known way possible. Not always best, but your body might think it will. So we got to rewrite that. And nervous system regulation is always the missing piece to all of these. So if we always tend to the nervous system first, then we will get clues to anything else. Because it's first, our digestion will start to balance out. Our hormones will start to balance out. These kinds of things. When we also talk about like the skeletor and like muscle groups, then we get a little deeper, but the nervous system is still part of that. And that's how I teach soft strength in any practice that is a little bit more dynamic or strength type training where it's like body weight. Because if you have a dysregulated nervous system and you are pushing yourself and you're bringing up that cortisol time and time again, then they're working against each other. And that's where routine and structure might not work in your favor because your anxiety keeps getting heightened. Again, maybe logically you're not aware of it, but your body's aware of it. And you're dealing with other chronic conditions, maybe not short term, like currently, but maybe long term things will pop up. All right, I want to pause here and give you just a little homework, a little bit of a takeaway for this practice or this work, this podcast. And I always want to do that with these just to give you a little insight. And next week, we'll go deeper into how to regulate the nervous system based on a Vata imbalance. I'm going to give you some more insight on what Vata is so that maybe you can see for yourself if that's something you're chronically dealing with. Okay, my camera died, so I just really want to quickly give you this practice that you can try. I want you to feel empowered for your healing right off the bat. So on a piece of paper, I want you to write 3 qualities of Vata, the dosha that is one regulating movement and your nervous system. Dry, cold, and mobile. So movement, okay? Dry, cold, mobile. There are more, but these 3 qualities are Vata. On the other side, I want you to write the opposite of those. So the opposite of dry, the opposite of cold, the opposite of movement. Once you have those, take a moment, maybe even a couple breaths, close your eyes, and take 3 practices that help you get into those energies. So let's just give you cold, okay? Cold, opposite would be warm or even hot. One thing that would give me warmth is drinking a tea or taking a warm bath. Okay, so find a practice that's very simple. Don't even think of meditation and these things that we pull from the healing wellness world right now. If that's something that's super aligned with you, great. But look around your house. Think about your hobbies. Think about things that might bring you joy, or just think of the simplicity of it. Opposite of dry is wet. So what can give you that? And then comment below those 3 practices. It would be helpful not only for me to see where you're at with that, but also you might encourage others and give them some ideas. And then try that practice a few times until next week. And on our next episode, we'll revisit the qualities of Vata, some more practices on how to regulate, and hopefully by the end of next week's episode, you'll have a good understanding of how to regulate your nervous system in the most modern and simplified and personalized, empowered way. Thank you so much for joining. Again, I am so excited to have launched this. Thank you for 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. This has been so awesome. This journey has been great, and I look forward to the next few episodes. Thanks again. Okay, my camera died, so I just really want to quickly give you this practice that you can try. I want you to feel empowered for your healing right off the bat. So on a piece of paper, I want you to write 3 qualities of Vata, the dosha that is one regulating movement and your nervous system. Dry, cold, and mobile, so movement, okay? Dry, cold, mobile. There are more, but these 3 qualities are Vata. On the other side, I want you to write the opposite of those. So the opposite of dry, the opposite of cold, the opposite of movement. Once you have those, take a moment, maybe even a couple breaths, close your eyes, and take 3 practices that help you get into those energies. So let's just give you cold, okay? Cold, opposite would be warm or even hot. One thing that would give me warmth is drinking a tea or taking a warm bath, okay? So find a practice that's very simple. Don't even think of meditation and these things that we pull from the healing wellness world right now. If that's something that's super aligned with you, great. But look around your house. Think about your hobbies. Think about things that might bring you joy, or just think of the simplicity of it. Opposite of dry is wet. So what can give you that? And then comment below those 3 practices. It would be helpful not only for me to see where you're at with that, but also you might encourage others and give them some ideas. And then try that practice a few times until next week. And on our next episode, we'll revisit the qualities of Vata, some more practices on how to regulate, and hopefully by the end of next week's episode, you'll have a good understanding of how to regulate your nervous system in the most modern and simplified and personalized, empowered way. Thank you so much for joining. Again, I am so excited to have launched this. Thank you for 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. This has been so awesome. This journey has been great, and I look forward to the next few episodes. Thanks again.